I'd like to welcome everybody to the August, is this August?
Yeah.
August edition of the West Side Club. Boy, this year is just flying by. Our typical format will be our open forum, and then we can go into our open topics for the night. But we will have a presentation right after open forum by Mr. Ron Friedman. Who'd like to open up the floor with the first question of the evening? Bob, I think you brought up something.
I have an announcement.
Okay.
Those of you who are using Xfinity email, you probably either know by now or you will soon be notified that they are moving their email services to Yahoo. This follows some other providers moving their services to AOL, and it's just generally the ISPs are dropping their self-hosting of email services. So if you haven't gotten a letter from them, a message from them, you will. And then Yahoo has a page for how you set all of these things up. I think it will result in having a Yahoo Mail Plus account, which is reduced ads and other nice features.
Okay. And we'd get that automatically?
It is an automatic thing, and they will tell you when it will roll out to your account. It is being staged.
I already have a Yahoo account. So what did come up with another Yahoo account?
Probably.
Yes, you will have a second Yahoo account. If your current Yahoo account is free, you will have, in addition to that, one that is normally paid for as long as you have Xfinity.
And I assume
And
there's
then
a charge that's coming somehow in all this?
It's already part of your services. You're already being billed. For them, it's actually a reduced cost.
We'll see.
You're right.
Now, I'm not saying they won't jack up your
there-
services charges.
Who's here has an Xfinity account? Okay. And I mean, I don't do anything with their mail service. I know it exists. Has anyone here used their mail service? Wayne does.
I have, but I don't use it very much.
So
I
it would
usually
be
use Yahoo.
Wayne blah 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 at xfinity.net or something like that.
Comcast.net.
Or
Comcast. It's Wayne.Pritzel@Comcast.net.
Why
That's
is it they never changed it to Xfinity?
Because it's still
Because-
Comcast Corporation.
Yeah, their corporate name is still Comcast. Their domain name is still Comcast.
Okay.
Xfinity is a brand within their family. The parent company is actually NBC Universal.
Great.
That's why you get Peacock so cheap.
And Bob, do you know their ticker? No, don't give it to me. You're a wealth of information.
I'll tell you what their stable coin is later.
And with Xfinity, you can get your television stations with Xfinity Stream on your computer,
This is true. And
as
you
well
can,
as your phone or a TV. But
phones, TV, computer, anything that can connect to your network. There are
you
restrictions
can
if you
watch
go
3
out of your
programs
house.
at the same time.
How many? 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, depending on how many devices you got.
I've got 2-room service.
Okay,
So-
should we go on to a new topic or a new discussion?
Yep.
Someone else have another question they'd like to pose to the group? I was wondering, in terms of, are people thinking if they were to buy a machine, it would be better to wait or to jump on the wagon now? To buy a replacement machine? Just as a general discussion, what is the general consensus?
I would be waiting. We are on the cusp of getting the 25H2 update for Windows 11, and that will change a few things. And many people have not yet transitioned from Windows 10 to Windows 11. So the pricing landscape will probably change no matter what you want to do.
Mhm. Wayne, what do you think? Would you buy a new machine now or wait?
I've got Windows 11. I bought this computer about 2 years ago.
Well, that wasn't the question. The question is, if you were to buy a machine, would you needed to buy one to replace one, even though you may not be in that situation? Would
I
you buy
already
it now
did
or
one in
wait?
December.
He said
For my
never.
wife,
Okay.
I know.
Dennis, what do you think?
But I'd be in no hurry to buy anything now. I'd wait till everything settles out with Windows 10 and what Microsoft might say or do or whatever. I'd hang on.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to chime in on it, on the subject?
Yeah.
Ron?
So, yeah, we've gone ahead and did advanced purchase. We weren't going to wait for the tariffs. That was it wasn't the Windows 10 or 11 thing. It was if you're buying a computer these days, they'll all a modern computer, they'll all run Windows. Well, if they're Intel or AMD, they'll all run Windows 11.
Right.
That's not a problem. But we are concerned about the price point after tariffs actually hit. So anything that you can buy off the shelf today is not been hit by tariffs.
Right.
Come December, I'm not sure what's going to even be available that's not been socked with a tariff on it. So the normally lower prices that one finds during the holidays, I'm not sure that that's going to exist.
Well, what percentage is the tariff going to be on computers? I'm just kind of curious.
15% on wholesale. So
But it depends on which country it comes from and the components, right?
well, no, I
I
mean
don't
it's once
remember what he was hitting on Korea versus China. China was at 200 and something percent. So if the machine is, I don't know. I didn't memorize any of these percentages here. If someone wants to please fill in the blanks, what the tariffs are amount, but I mean, it could double, it could potentially 1.5 times what your normal price is. So if you would pay
well,
$200, it might be $300 now.
it's what's on wholesale price. They're not charging tariffs on the retail price.
Correct.
So it's it's going to be based on the wholesale price, and so if they keep the same dollar margin rather than percentage margin, it's not going to be proportional to the tariff. But the lowest tariff now is 15%. Electronics have their own little idiosyncrasies. I just don't know what the manufacturers like Dell or Samsung or HP or Asus are going to be doing with their products when they come here. They were all pre-bought early to be brought into the country before the tariffs took place, and I think most of the manufacturers just have everything on hold and are trying to sell down their stock.
And the same will be true for phones, which, if Apple comes out with their next model, who knows what the pricing will be.
And if it turns out they bought extra stock they don't need, prices could drop for a while.
On those, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They don't want to be holding on to inventory. So I would hazard a guess any of those Qualcomm Copilot PCs, Copilot Plus PCs, there's going to be a lot of those that are going to be dumped at the end of the year.
Uh-huh. You mean dump, like get rid of, or?
Yeah, they're going to be lower in price.
Lower in price. Okay.
Yeah, because they're not going to want to keep hanging on to them.
Right.
And this is especially true as Intel and AMD come out with their NPUs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot of technology changes coming, and this only confuses it more with, people waiting for hardware. So I think that people aren't going to take as many risks to get some, if they can't get something old at this point that's already made. They're not going to be risking unless there's new. They'd be waiting for the new technology.
Now, those of us who do Linux would be able to take advantage of people dumping their Windows 10 equipment. Personally, I don't need another Windows machine at this point.
But you do need another Linux machine.
Oh, you always need a new Linux machine. There's so many distros out there. But they don't all have to run on separate machines. They can run on separate enclosures.
True.
Well,
true.
Windows 10 can still last another year.
At least.
Well, you can make it. You can make it last 1 or 2 more years, maybe 3.
Well,
I wouldn't. but
which
you
brings
could.
up wasn't there an email that went around that all you need there's things you can do to continue your free updates.
Have a
Correct.
Microsoft account.
You got to have a Microsoft account, right?
Yep.
Or
And I think if you allow Windows to do a cloud backup to your Microsoft account, then you get a year free of updates.
yeah, with some caveats.
Mhm.
And also if you have enough points with the Microsoft Reward program.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been using Bing, if you've been using Edge, if you've been using Copilot, then you may have accumulated several thousand points.
Yep.
That'll do it.
Well,
Is
for
anyone
those
gonna
of us
take
who have
advantage of that?
multiple computers, you can keep those Windows 10 machines anyway going.
That was a question I was wondering. If you had X number of points that, let's say 10,000 points, and it costs you 1,000 points a year, so that means that machine could run for 10 years, or could you run it for 10 machines for 1 year?
It would be 10 machines for 1 year because you cannot apply these points toward future years.
So you can do it across multiple machines.
They would probably encourage you to do so if you have enough points.
It may
And
be
you're
you
like,
need
and
different
you are
email
licensed to it.
accounts.
Tim,
Tim, you're muted.
Microsoft is only giving you 12-month extension, no exception, period.
Mhm.
Only commercial and educational will get an extension of up to at least 2 years.
Well, anyway, you get time to make your plans for Windows 11 regardless. And personally, I wouldn't take advantage of extending Windows 10. I mean, it's not getting any new features or anything like
Right.
that.
right. All you're doing is you're keeping your security updates there.
Yep. 22H2 for another year.
Yeah. I mean, if I want to stick with something older, or if I want to stick with something that is perhaps less of a hassle, I would stick with some kind of Linux distro.
You mean you don't want to go to the black screen of death rather than the blue screen of death?
Yeah.
Well, with Windows 11, that's going to happen anyway.
That's what I mean. But if
Yeah.
you're staying on Windows 10, you'd be on the blue screen of death rather than the black screen of death.
Go over to the dark side.
That's right.
Okay, any new subjects or questions for the group tonight? Wayne?
Yeah, I've got a 1,000 gigabyte hard drive I took out of my wife's Windows 10 computer. Has anybody bought a case that you can put it in?
Oh, yeah.
Plug it in externally.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Several. You could also get a docking station. You don't have to put it in a case. You could just, there's plenty of them. Go to like Newegg. You can get one. Micro Center sells them. You could walk in the store and buy one for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Now
they
this has
plug
got
into your
different
US
type of different type of connections here than what I've seen on the on some of the older hard drives.
Oh,
Right. That's a SATA connection. So you'll have to get a case that uses the SATA connection.
Oh,
and that's-
okay,
and
okay.
you'll be set.
Okay,
And if you don't want to put it in a case and do all that, you can just get a USB to SATA adapter, and you can plug it into your USB port and plug the SATA adapter into your hard drive, and you're rocking and rolling.
well, I don't think this has to have external power.
You get a USB to SATA adapter that has the extra power supply. It's just a wall wart.
Okay,
see if I can, hold on, let me turn off my background. Sorry. Okay. There's the wall wart. And this is a connector right there.
There it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. On off switch,
yeah,
little light on here. And then what I do is you could put it in an enclosure, but in this case, I just plug the drive into this and then plug the USB cable right into the computer, and I can get access to it. And when I'm done, take it all apart and put it away.
yeah,
You know, it depends what your needs are, because I float through drives and this is a portable one, but they do make those connectors right there. They're very
okay.
common. That SATA connector is very common, easy to find on an enclosure unit. Does that help?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, new question. It was SATA. Just making a note here.
yeah. I had an enclosure for some of the older hard drives, but they weren't the SATA connections. They were a different type of connection.
Now,
Right.
there is one caution. If this is a system drive with Windows on it, Windows, unless you do special things, won't boot from an external enclosure.
Right.
I don't want to
It
boot
won't
from
boot
it.
through.
It's got the
All right.
Windows 10 on it, but I don't want to boot from it. I want to be able to use the hard drive with the files that are on it for my wife,
Okay.
you know, plug it into her computer.
If you're doing that, I would back it up like cloning it before you put it into use that way. Because things do happen to external drives.
They do. But you just want to use it to access whatever your wife was working on as a data?
Well, I want to hook it up to her computer so that, because a new computer that I put together for her, Windows 11, I wasn't able to transfer it over. So
The data or
yeah,
programs?
What
well,
transfer software did you try?
I didn't try any.
So it's not that you weren't able, you just didn't try. Because transferring is really not that difficult.
Yeah, what program was it, or what is it you need access that's on there?
Well, she had a bunch of, files that she's had on there for over a number of years.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an idea where they are structurally on the drive?
I'm sure you can find them.
Okay, all right. Well, I say that because the way Windows works and where it puts things
I
can be
know.
cumbersome. You got to go
Yeah,
through, what is it, users, the user login name.
yeah,
Then is it public or is it non-public?
yeah, right.
But once you get into
Yep.
a particular user, there's only about 5 or 6 places where files commonly are
Mhm.
put.
This is true.
Unfortunately, some of these traditionally have been libraries, so they really aren't individual locations.
Right.
Right.
Well, my wife didn't set things up like with the file system like I do. So when she used a Microsoft Word, it sometimes would save it out to to the Microsoft Word directory instead of to a a file directory.
Does that actually happen? I
Yeah.
thought it
Yeah.
goes to my documents by default, or
Yeah.
nowadays to OneDrive / my documents.
There's an option also in most of the Microsoft product to go to the last place you saved, wherever that was,
Right.
not always to a default. So, sometimes your files are in one directory, the next time you're in
Yeah.
another
Or in
directory, you're
another,
wondering,
they could be
where
in,
did they go?
they could be in downloads, or they could be in uploads, or they could be in side loads.
I turned off that thing on Excel and Word where it automatically puts it to OneDrive.
Mm-hmm.
Because if
Yeah.
you're not careful, it automatically throws it out to OneDrive.
Yeah, I use LibreOffice, and its save system is much simpler. As long as you set up your first document, your first spreadsheet to go to a particular place, it'll go the same place forever.
Yeah, yeah.
Biggest drawback, of course, is you have formatting incompatibilities occasionally with Microsoft products. Not as common as they used to be. After all, Microsoft now has embraced open source. They have embraced open document formats.
Yay. Yay. Okay, do we have more questions for our open forum? No? Okay, Ron, you have the final part on a 3-part series. Would you like to take the floor?
5-part series.
5-part, oh,
We,
yeah.
we,
I
the
forgot,
last time
this is Star Wars.
that's right. That's right. Wait, there's going to be a prequel that we'll have, talking about Windows 95 and migrating from Windows 95. This is session number 3. Because of the holiday, we did not have and other scheduling conflicts, we did not have a presentation last month. So this is last month's presentation this month. Session 3, the first session, if you recall, we said, is my computer going to be able to handle Windows 11? The second session was preparation for an upgrade. In other words, you determined that from the first session, you determined, yeah, my computer could be upgraded. So what kind of preparation work? This session is about what you've already found out. You've done the PC health check, and your computer doesn't meet the requirements for Windows 11, and you don't want to hassle with anything having to do with Windows 11. So you're going to prep for what's called a migration. You're going to migrate from an old computer to a new computer, at least new to you. It might be an old computer that can handle Windows 11 and already has it installed, but it's new to you. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. From the last couple of sessions, we talked about getting a system configuration report. For example, a Belarc Advisor. Let me go to my other camera here. Camera, and go to this one. There we go. Here's a Belarc Advisor view that is on a computer that could not handle going to Windows 11. It didn't have the right CPU. It was an older CPU. In fact, if I look at it real quick here, what does it say? It is running, maybe I'll scroll down here a little bit. It's got the operating system. Oh, helps if I use the correct mouse here. It has a i5 third generation. So it's a little bit on the older side when we did that report. So, you know, this is not going to be able to run Windows 11 easily. There's probably hacks that can be done. That's not what we're talking about. We're going to say, I've got another computer that I'm going to use. So on the old PC, before you do a migration, I still recommend that whatever level of operating system you are at, update it to the latest it can be updated to. Update your apps if possible, update your device drivers, because some of the information you're going to be carrying forward from the old computer to the new computer may be dependent. The new computer might require certain kinds of settings, and you want to make sure that your settings carry forward. Because what I'm going to be talking about is not just copying your data files. I'm going to be talking about a method of migration that actually will move your programs as well as your data. It will copy your configuration, what files are on your desktop, in what order, what settings do you have in File Explorer for showing your file extensions or showing hidden folders. The method of migration I'm going to talk about is going to try and give you your new computer from Windows 10 to Windows 11 to be as close to your Windows 10 system as possible without you having to do a lot of additional work. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So make sure you get your updates done. That's probably an important thing to go about doing. The next thing you want to do is you want to, I can't stress this enough, know your local administrator username and password. It's going to come in handy when you migrate your profile, your user information from the old computer and then put it on the new computer. You may need to know not only what your username and password was, but especially if you did not have administrator level access, you need to know what the administrator name was and the administrator password. And test it. Make sure that it actually works. You can log in as the administrator on your old machine. The next thing you're going to want to do prior to, oh, yes, Sanford.
What if you don't know it? How do I find it? What do I do?
Well, you can't find your old password unless you have it written down on a Post-it note somewhere near your computer or something. Yeah, boy, I hope your account that you normally log in as has administrator rights. Maybe if you can install software, you must have administrator rights on your computer. If you can't install software, when you try and install software, the user access control window pops up and says, please provide the administrator's username and password so that you can install this software, then that's the username and password you need to know. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. There will be somebody who may not know that. So
they may not, and I can't help you with that. Yeah, there are ways to hack it. That's not what we're doing.
Right.
Most of us here are knowledgeable computer users, and heck, if our computer didn't match the PC health check, we'd figure out ways around it. This is not what this is all about. The next thing you want to do is if you are using folder file compression or partition file compression. I'm not talking about zip folders or anything like that. I'm talking about where you have put the operating system's compression capabilities on a particular partition or in a particular folder. you're going to want to turn that off wherever you have it. And you may not have it at all, but wherever you have it, you're going to want to turn that off so that you're not trying to transfer compressed parts of your hard drive to another system.
Oh,
You may not want to do it. Zip files aren't an issue, or 7Z files, any kind of a file that's encrypted won't be an issue. What's going to be an issue is the Windows operating system has a capability of compressing folders or compressing entire partitions, a C partition, a D partition, and you're gonna want to make sure that is turned off. Turn off compression, and when you do that, you better have enough disk space on your computer to have all those files uncompress, which may be a problem. You may not have that kind of space. So there's some options. We're going to talk about it more. Yes, Sanford.
I just want to share my screen for a second for you
please.
as an assist. Right there. Okay. And what Ron is referring to is this is system properties of my hard drive. And you can see here the drive and space and stuff like that. But down in the left-hand corner, there's a little checkbox here that says compress this drive to save space. I believe, Ron, this is what you're referring to?
That's a whole partition, right? That'll be a whole partition.
And
you also can right-click on folders and do the same thing, is compress this folder to save disk space.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I just thought I'd help.
Thank you.
With that little assist there, sir.
All right. So you want to turn that off. Hopefully you have enough space on your drive to handle whatever's been compressed. The next thing you want to turn off is your antivirus. You don't want antivirus to be getting in the middle of your migration, especially if you have questionable files on your computer for some reason that AV might not like. So turn that off.
Are we talking Windows Defender?
If that's the antivirus you have, you can turn it off. Yeah.
So
it might be
Windows
Bitdefender. It might be whatever antivirus you're using. Just turn it off.
Is that going to leave me vulnerable? I'm going to get attacked by a virus like immediately?
Well, I don't know. Are you asking for it? Someone to access your system to put a virus on there. I'm assuming you're not installing new software. You're not doing a whole bunch of emails. You're not downloading files while you're getting ready to migrate. The migration is going to happen real soon, and and as soon as you're done migrating, you can turn it all back on. It's just that before migrating, you want to turn it off just to make sure that you can migrate your files.
Okay.
The other thing you want to turn off, and this might be the harder one, is you want to turn off BitLocker, especially on your C drive. You want to turn your operating system drive. You want to turn off BitLocker. That's in the security section. The one thing you have to note about that, just like uncompressing your files that are on your C drive or in a folder, BitLocker is going to take a while to unencrypt all the files that are on the drive. It's not going to be instantaneous. It's not like I uncheck the box and bingo, everything is unencrypted. It's going to take a while. A while might mean, depending on your computer and how slow it is and how much you have, might be overnight.
Even longer than that too.
At that point, you are ready, at least on your computer, you're ready to do a migration as soon as you can. So the one thing you're going to want to do is get one of these. This is a USB hard drive or flash drive, depending. This one is about a terabyte. My hard drive on my laptop here is only 500 gigs, so it's just plenty of space on here. But we want to be able to move what's on my old computer to a new computer using these tools that I'm about to talk about. And you're going to want one of these. So what does one of these drives cost? This is a standard USB 3.0 a drive. This happens to be by Western Digital. I was looking around today, and they're between 40 and $60 for a terabyte to a terabyte and a half. I get one with a brand name you might recognize. That'd be my only qualifier to the whole thing. This does not require a separate power supply. This runs right off of USB power on. If you're running USB 3.0, it runs off of USB power. And it will work fine. And what we're going to be doing in migration is we're going to take the important files off of your current computer, put them on to this hard drive in a special format, and it's like almost an image file of what the files are on your on your computer. And then we're going to take this drive that we put all the files on, and we're going to attach it to the new computer, and we're going to run the same software in reverse, and it's going to take everything off of this drive and put it on your new computer in the right places, in the right formats, with the right registry settings, and you'll start up your computer and it will magically, at least to me it seems like magic, it will almost entirely work. There might be a few things that don't, but the software I'm going to recommend works very well. And in fact, Microsoft used one of the companies to actually create its user state migration tool, which is still available, but only does your user profile and doesn't do the programs that are associated with it. So I mentioned this thing, a migration tool. So there's several of them out there. I'm going to talk about 3 of them. The one that I most recommend, and the one that actually helped Microsoft create their user state migration tool back in the day, is a company called LapLink, and their product is called PCMover Professional. It costs money. It's not free. They charge $60 for it at retail. I've seen coupons like from Groupon and different places where you can get it from PCMover, from the LapLink company. So you're not getting it from some questionable source for $40 or even $30. So I have found it for the many years I've been using it, and I've been using it since 2004. Different versions of it, obviously, because Windows has different versions. But the current version of PCMover Professional, PCMover Pro, will migrate from Windows 10 to Windows 11 without a problem. They know all the bells and whistles. They know all the applications, or at least many of the applications. They know which ones they can't move, which is kind of nice too, is they don't have you try and move things which are just going to cause problems in Windows 11. But if you still have Office 2013 running on your old computer and you want it to be on the new computer, it can move it. If you have some other tools or favorite software or scanner software or drivers or printers and things like that you have, yeah, it will move all them and move the configurations for that as well, so you don't have to reinstall it. If you can't find the license key for Office 2013, it will bring over the license key that was on your old computer. Won't show it to you, but it will move it as part of the registry settings and update your registry so that it will continue to run. Let me show you PCMover. Let me change my camera again. Are we good? All right. Oh, we've got an update for you. I'm sure you do.
You must install this now, and it's gonna take 6 hours. So
yeah.
sorry.
All right, so here we are. This is PC Mover. PC Mover is from LapLink, and they're showing you the list price, which is $60. And again, by the way, if you're still running a Windows 7 computer, it will go from Windows 7 or Windows 8 to Windows 11 as well. So it's the same product. There are different versions of PC Mover. You'll definitely want the professional version because you want to migrate everything on your old computer. So if you had multiple users on your old computer, you want all the users to come to the new computer. You don't want to shortchange yourself. And I think for the price you're paying, it's a good product. You download it and you install it on the old computer. Now, the way this is set up that they're showing it to you, they expect you to pay for it up front, then install it on your old computer. However, they have, and I'm going to come over here. Oop, wrong mouse again. There we go. I'm going to close this down and close this down. You can download it from their website. It's not a trial. It's the full-blown version, and install it on the old computer. And you can try it out a few times and see how it works. It'll prompt you through, and we'll do this in 2 months. So that'll be the October meeting. It will, we'll show you this actually running. We'll do it a time lapse because it does take a while. But we'll show you that, what it does on your old computer as it collects all the information and asks you, is this what you want to cut over? And you'll say yes. And it puts it all out on your USB flash drive or hard drive that I showed you. And it puts it out there as a file, and it's waiting for you. And then you can go back to your old computer and do whatever you want after it's made this file. As you can see, there's a link here that you can download. Let me go here. There it is. PC Mover Professional. There it is, and you can download it and install it on your old computer and actually make your transfer file. You don't need to pay for it. You'll have to pay for it when you install it on your new computer. That's when they ask you to pay the big bucks. And they send you a license key, so you can still get the discount version wherever you find a Groupon or whatever. They'll send you the license key for it, and you put that in on your new computer, and you're set, ready to go. So that's one company. I happen to like them because they haven't failed me in any. The only time they failed me is when I said, no, I want to have all the software from my old computer moved to the new computer, and it didn't like some of the software that was on my old computer. It told me it didn't like it, and I said, well, move it anyhow, and it just caused other weird problems. But the software that it says it can move, it's pretty good about it. So there's that. The next thing I want to show you is some other software which is out there. Let's see. So there's another company. I haven't used their software, so I can't tell you how good it is. It's supposed to work similar to, look at that, a 70% discount they want to give me. This is EASYS. EASYS does a lot of disk utilities. They're pretty good at what they do. I've used other tools of theirs, but I've never used their PC transfer tool. But it does pretty much what PC Mover does. It will take not only your user files and your user directories, it will take your application software, it will take your configuration settings, and it will take it from Windows 10 to Windows 11. And as you can see, it can go all the way back to Windows XP. So if you're still running a Windows XP machine, shame on you. No, I'm sure there's a reason. And in any case, so that's one product you might consider, EASYS. and it's their PC transfer product. And it's probably, it may even be a little bit cheaper than PCMover. It's certainly cheaper than PCMover when you're paying their full retail price. Another product here is a product called the Z-Install Migration Kit Pro. They have another one which you connect two computers on a network and transfer that way. We're not talking about that. This is what you want. You'd be looking at Z-Install Migration Kit Pro. I have no idea who Z-Install is. And they are more expensive. And I'm not sure that paying a higher price is better quality. I cannot tell you. So I'm giving you the options which are out there to migrate from your old computer to your new computer relatively easily. Going back to PCMover. Let's do that. Let's go back to PCMover. No, let's go. Here we go. So PCMover, as I said, you install it on both computers. It's the same thing you install, just the one that's the new computer, you have to pay for that copy of PCMover. There's two options that PCMover has. Z-Install has two options. EASYS has two options. One option is to create this transfer file on the USB hard drive, and then attach the USB hard drive to the new computer and transfer it back down into Windows 11. I won't say onto, it's into. It actually puts things into the Windows 11 ecosystem environment. That's one way. The other way is they talk about networking the two computers together, either wirelessly or with a hardwired connection. I don't recommend doing that. All right, and part of it is both computers are out of commission during that time. That could be a problem. I might be using the new computer to be doing my current work, and I'm waiting, and I want to get the stuff off my old computer and merge it into my new computer. I don't want my new computer to be down at the same time that my old computer is down. So if you can, if you're not in a rush, and I recommend, since we're doing this so far in advance, you don't necessarily need to be in a rush. This is something that you can do. Now, how long do these transfers take? Talking about a rush, maybe a couple hours. So it's not bad. A couple hours to go from your old computer to the drive, and another couple hours to go from the drive to the new computer and merge everything. So that's 4 hours total, but they don't have to be one right after the other. So I recommend using the USB drives for transfer, no matter which product you use. Especially if you don't have a hardwire connection that you can use. You have to use a wireless connection, because wireless is notoriously fallible, and you don't want to be in the middle of merging your old computer to your new computer and have it fail halfway through. The other nice thing about doing it with one of these is you can undo, because your new computer is merging. It's actually making a copy of your old Windows 11 that prior to the merge. So if the merge doesn't work, you can revert back, and your data is still on, that you did from the old computer is still on the transfer file in your USB drive. So you can try it again and see, maybe you hit the wrong button or had the wrong menu item when you did it. So the undo feature is another nice reason, which you can't necessarily do well with the network version. And I think USB 3.0 is faster than Wi-Fi. So that might be the other reason why you probably don't want to be two computers networked together trying to do that. If you had a hardwire connection, if the hardwire connection may be faster than USB 3 external drive, but Wi-Fi definitely is a much slower transfer mechanism. And that is my talk. Next month, we're actually going to do an upgrade of a Windows 10 to Windows 11 in time lapse, so you can see what all the windows are if you haven't done it already. And then the October meeting here, or the September meeting if you're at Southside, will be, because Southside already had this program. The September meeting in Southside, or the October meeting here on West, we will actually do a migration, so you can see what's involved in the migration and how well it works. And then, you know, your Windows 10 is going to work well past the cutoff date of the middle of October. So you're still not even in a rush to migrate if you don't have to in the end of October. You still have, you know, a couple months left before the real serious malware gets out there to try and attack your Windows 10 system. That's it. Any questions? Yes, Bert.
Can any of these tools be used to create a clone of a drive? In other words, can you go from Windows 10 to two different computers?
Oh, so yes, but not in the way that you're thinking about, not in a traditional way of cloning. Cloning is a computer exactly matching another computer. So let's talk about, I have a Windows 10 computer, I have two Windows 11 computers, but they're not identical because they've been used at different times. They have different drivers on them. Who knows what those Windows 11 computers are? However, the transfer file can still be used to put on both of those computers because it's Windows 11. And so you have that option to transfer a Windows 10 transfer file and use it to merge onto a Windows 11 computer. And it's the same transfer file. There's nothing, as I said, we downloaded, or we can download PCMover and put it on the old Windows 10 computer, create the transfer file, and I could wait 3 weeks before transferring it to a Windows 11. There's nothing, they don't see each other. They don't know who each other is. So yes, you can copy the configuration to both computers. Does that kind of answer what you're asking about?
It's good enough for me.
Okay. So you know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like the undo feature. So the undo, you just don't undo. You just put it on another computer. So it's kind of the same.
Licensing question.
Yes.
If you do want to deploy a single migration to several different computers, does each new computer need a separate license? Do they have bundles?
I'll tell you what I would do. Yes, license-wise, if really what you're doing is trying to duplicate across many, if it was just one and another, I would just chat with the PCMover tech support and say, you know, it didn't work, and I had to re-image the old the new computer from scratch, and I need to install it again. Can you give me a license to install it again? And they'll give you another license key. They're really nice people there. So you could do that. But if you want to say, well, I want to do this 5-10 times, no, that's not going to happen. But once you have your new computer, you can clone that as many times as you want to all the other computers, because then it'll be exact. It'll be the exact same Windows 11, the exact same user profiles, the exact same configuration settings, and
Maybe
rock and
Wayne
roll.
should be doing it this way instead of with that other drive.
Say again?
Wayne was going to put his wife's hard drive into an enclosure so that she'd have access to those files. Why maybe he should just go and clone this stuff across using a migration package like this, and he won't
Okay.
have to have that external hard drive.
All right. So if there were, so Wayne, if there are programs on this old hard drive that you need to get to the new computer, yes, you could do that. Not a problem. This will work with that. So not only will it copy the files that were on the old computer, it will copy the programs and the configuration settings, if that's really important. A lot of times all people want is, I want, all the files that I created over time and have them properly copied over. Microsoft has a product that for free. It's called the User State Migration Tool, USMT. And what it does is it will copy a user's profile from one drive to another drive, exactly as that profile was. Because Windows 11 doesn't really care about the user profiles. It only cares about the hardware profiles. That's all about the operating system. The applications care about user profiles, but chances are that's not going to be what's really wanted. But keeping all the files in the right directory. Hey, having your browser favorites come over. I don't. Not everyone thinks about. Gee, I got this new computer. All my favorites, all those things that I saved in my bookmarks bar, they're all gone because I'm on a new computer. How do I get them? And yeah, you can export them and import them and do that kind of stuff. But the user state migration tool for that user profile will copy that over and put it. It just won't install programs. It does not know anything about programs. It's anything having to do with the user profile. So that's a possibility too. If you get one of those SATA to USB connectors, you can plug it in the new computer, download Microsoft's User State Migration Tool. It says, where is the old profile and where do you want to put it? You're all set.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. You did a fantastic job. You can go home now. You're still at work, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
You're still at work. Yeah,
Yeah,
see?
you see all these boxes back here? Those are all new computers that have to have Windows 11 configured on them in a domain. So a little work behind me. So.
And when did those have to be done? 3 weeks ago?
Oh, you've seen my schedule.
But if you're in IT, it's always, you're late.
Yeah.
Well, they just showed up. It doesn't matter. You're late.
They showed up a week and a half ago. They're just sitting in a stack right now. It's kind of like lumber. You need to have them aired out and acclimated to the humidity and everything. So we didn't want to rush it.
Yeah, but when you go to deploy those, can you deploy them all at once on your setup?
What does that mean? What do you mean by all at once?
I'm assuming you're going to, in a business sense, you're going to custom create the environment for them, and they're going to have just whatever ecosystem is providing to them, and you're going to deploy that onto all the machines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my question is, are you going to deploy them all at once? Like hook them all up to the network and go, bing, do this, and they all get done?
Yeah.
Or do you got to do them one at a time?
Well, part of it we have to do one at a time, not the operating system or anything. We have to configure the BIOS one at a time. We've asked the vendor to pre-configure it, but it's never everything that we want. So what they're going to do is they're going to boot on the network, and they're going to automatically look for our image of what this particular model computer is supposed to have on it. And then there's, so it's going to find that image, suck it over, and put it on the local hard drive. And then there's an answer file that kind of a script, an answer script that says, these are the configurations that we want that can't be handled by the image that was already there. And so we can do as many as a broadcast network configuration can handle bandwidth wise. So we're on a gigabit in-house connection here. So we can probably handle without bringing down the network, we can probably handle 300 gigabits per second. I'm sorry, 300 megabits per second cumulative bandwidth across all of it. Now, hard drives are much slower than the network. These aren't hard drives, unfortunately. They're all SSD drives. So they're gonna try and go as fast as they can, and they'll probably suck up a lot of bandwidth. So we probably will only be able to do 10 at a time. But yeah, we have a golden image, an image that we've created. You know,
That
basically, and that's what we're going to use.
That process only needs to happen once, right?
The golden image.
Yeah.
Once it's golden, it's once. Yeah, that's it. It takes a while to get it to a golden image, but a lot of iterations. But we only do that once. And again, when these computers are connected to the network and they boot up, they're going to ask for, give me the image, and it's just going to automatically go to the hard drive.
So what are the environments where there's no image? It's like just it goes to the network and pulls the whole OS and everything it needs every time it boots up.
Yeah. So
how does that work?
So it's the same way that your that DVD that you used to put into a computer to install you know, Windows 7 and Windows 10. You know, some of us used it for Windows 10, or the flash drive you put in. But it's a standard Windows installation. It goes and asks for the standard Windows installation and a script that goes along with it, so that you don't have to go to each computer and answer all the questions that a normal Windows installation has. So you have it pre-answered, and it works well when you have a bunch of computers that are the exact same model. It doesn't work quite as well when there are a bunch of different models. Now we have that situation here as well, where we have a bunch of computers which are already out. They're not new, they're already out there. And when we upgrade them to Windows 11, we have to do an in-place upgrade. And in so doing, we have different answer files for different models of computers. So that just was a lot of advanced work that we had to do.
Yeah, that helps.
But we all live with our own home computers, you know, so they operate a little bit differently than working in a, you know, in a commercial or educational place. And that's the other thing. We don't use Windows Home. We don't even use Windows Pro. We use Windows Enterprise or Windows Education. That's all we use. So we don't even bother with the lower the more consumer grade versions.
Now, Enterprise would be somewhat restricted or a controlled environment, or what makes it different than?
Oh, it's actually more controls available to us to tweak. So you have Windows Home. That's a very restricted environment. Windows Pro had more bells and whistles attached to it to be able to do cloud stuff and things like that. Enterprise is designed for domains. Domain is a network configuration, and it's designed to allow central management much more so than Pro, and certainly more so than Home does. And education is the same way. It's much more designed for central management. Education has some bells and whistles from enterprise and other things which enterprise doesn't have that are specific to education, like a really awful version of Microsoft 365.
Anyone want to comment about that?
And if you're used to a business version, so a lot of nonprofits get they don't. Microsoft gives them a license for the education version of Microsoft Windows, not the enterprise version. So it has a lot of the central management, but Microsoft 365 for education has some really strange tools that are built like around classrooms. And if you're just a nonprofit, you don't have classrooms. You don't need all this stuff. It's all about classrooms and teachers and lesson plans and stuff, which are all built into the education Microsoft Microsoft 365 environment. So it's just irritating.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Hey, thank you. Next month, we're gonna watch an actual upgrade time lapse. Should I make it last about 3 minutes rather than the full migration time? Here's what happens. Zoom. Yes, that's how yours will work too. So
That's right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm eager to hear what's next.
Okay. Yeah, what is next? Well, it's open forum. It's a continuation of our open forum and open topics. So one of the things that I wanted to show was a video that I ran across, and I'll pause our recording because there's copyright information on this as it comes from KTLA TV in California. So give me a second to pause our recording here. Okay, I thought that would be an interesting video to watch if everyone watched it. Does that answer questions? I've never tried this like that process before. Does anyone else?
Well, I
How do
don't
we back
imagine
up our phones?
I don't imagine technically it's terribly different from transferring from your phone storage to an SD card, which you can put into many phones. Instead of an SD card, you're just using a USB Connect drive.
I would say Android, you can use TFT cards, but not iPhones. They don't accept those. And
iPhones are different because iOS doesn't really have a file system. At least not in the conventional sense. It doesn't have discrete folders and things like that. That makes it more difficult.
Much more difficult. And I will state in my experience with Apple is when you're going through that process, they don't have that select all feature, because every time I've done mass copy, it fails. If you do a few at a time, you can get through it. But mass copy of any media on Apple iPhones through something, it always fails. Doesn't matter if it's hard cabled or not. It just always gives me problems. So
yeah, I'm an Android person, so for me, it's just a file system.
Right.
Of course, you
And there-
can always email pictures or a group of pictures, but I'm sure
You
there's a side.
can, however, you risk, what often happens is the pictures can get reduced in size for sending, and you may not have control over that. It could be automatic through whatever client they're using. And this is very frequently happens on iPhones, is you go and send a picture, and the original picture could be a 6 megabyte file, but when you go to send it, it only sends 100 megabits or whatever. It could be, it just really shrinks down the size tremendously. Maybe I didn't describe that correctly. It would be like a 5 GB file and it'll send it as 100 megabits.
It often lets you say, do I want small, medium, or large?
Right. You got to be specific on there when you're sending it. And so,
And
This
you
is
can
why I
also email a video.
yes, videos, for when you email a video, it'll usually compress it down.
Yep.
So you
I
get the original.
with options like Google Drive and Dropbox available, if you're going to use a cloud intermediary or if you're going to use any intermediary that involves somebody else's server, you might just as well be using either your Google Drive or Dropbox or some other places where you can put large files and then download them later. But that's a two-step process. Then again, using an external drive is a two-step process, but it's a quicker two-step process.
Right.
And
Yeah,
it's also,
especially upload speeds on a home network are really slow.
yeah, and if you're trying to do anything on a cell network, forget about it.
I've plugged my iPhone into my computer, with USB. But one of the things is, the Apple photos are not a JPEG. They're
Right.
special. So it automatically has to convert it when you copy it. So you got to make sure that that's working properly.
Well, Windows now has from the Microsoft Store the codecs for transcoding to and from HEIC, which is a typical Apple format. They have HEIF, HEIC.
Do they still charge for it?
No, I have downloaded both,
Okay.
and
They used to charge.
I've used both, and I never pay a penny for anything from the Microsoft Store.
They charged 99 cents for it when it first came out. That's why I asked.
Yeah, maybe they did, but they haven't charged me. And I would know. I would know. I'm that guy.
Well, I have a question about USB types of connectors. As I recall, we used to. Here's what I'm trying to do. I have a setup where I can have two HDMI monitors connected to my computer, my laptop, and I only have one HDMI port. So I need to get a cable or a connection to be able to get a second HDMI port working. And so I've tried a couple things which failed for the most part. But I was just looking at a connector with 3 ports on it, 3 HDMI ports on it, and it plugs into a USB drive, a USB port. Now, USB ports, as I've figured out lately, have the ability to be different speeds. And the ones on my computer are something called super speed or something. So they're not the older basic ones, but the device that I'm looking at says it's a USB-A. Now, is that the same as super speed? And then in super speed, there's 5 different speeds for transferring data, like from your phone, 5 gigabytes, 10 and 40, depending on which how it's set up. Mine are 5.
Okay, Bert. USB-A. If it does not say if it does not say the old 3.1 or the present 3.2 Gen 1 or Gen 2, it is not going to be fast enough to support multiple video. USB-C generally is fast enough, but USB-C is not all created equal. Some of them are much faster than others. Some of them are much more multifunctional than others. Chromebooks have good ones, but there are devices that have bad ones.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of do a hit or miss. I happen to have a dock which has more than one HDMI out, and it plugs into a USB-C port. On a NUC, it's good. On my NUC, on some PCs, it won't do crap.
Oh, really?
Yep,
What,
it
not even
depends.
one monitor?
Oh, it won't do more than one.
Won't do
It'll
more
do
than
one,
one.
but it
Okay.
won't do crap with more.
Okay.
And that is dependent upon the capabilities of the USB bus and of the USB-C port. They don't all have the same wires. They don't have all the same connections.
Yeah.
Now, some things talk about you needing 100-watt power supply to do this. And I'm not sure where, what kind of, is that like an Apple power supply that's 100 watts? I'm seeing some things like that available, but I don't know if that's the thing that's going to solve the problem.
Well, USB-C that includes charging may go higher than 100 watts. But if you're talking about ones that require 100 watts, of course they're going to require connecting to a wall outlet for any dock that does that.
Well, I'm not afraid to connect it to a wall outlet. I'm
Yeah.
just not sure because the way, I mean, it's going through trying to look for multiple HDMI power. I'm not sure how that's going to work or not. I do have a splitter HDMI where I could actually show the same things on two different monitors.
On two. Yeah.
But I can't.
Yeah.
It's not the same as different things on two different monitors.
Yeah. First on splitters, whenever you split a signal, you diminish its strength, and usually proportional to the number of splits. The second thing, and that means you may have to boost it, and that can cause distortion, and it can cause a time delay or lag. Video lag is very annoying, as you know. But if you've got a properly capable multiple HDMI dock, basically is what it is, an adapter, it should be able to handle it simultaneously if the computer has enough processing power. And if it has enough graphics power.
It's like multiple ports, 13 different ports,
Yeah,
of which 2 of them are HDMI.
great.
But that doesn't work because I think it's looking for more like the 100 watts of power.
Yeah, you probably need to do some kind of external power for that.
So it works fine for a USB or anything like that, but
Is this on a PC or on a Mac?
PC.
It's a PC. So there's a driver involved that you have to have on the PC to get the USB to HDMI to work properly. I don't know if it's the same in Linux, and I know there's a problem on the Mac. I'm trying to remember what that driver is now.
I did see stuff about like a display port to HDMI.
No, this isn't DisplayPort. It's I can't, but it begins with D, but it's not DisplayPort. DisplayPort's a different kind of a connector. I can't remember what it is now. But there is a driver that's necessary in order to get multiple monitor, like side by side monitors, not one monitor on two screens. The same picture on two screens. You want two different pictures. You want, I mean, at my home, I have a laptop and 3 HDMI monitors coming off of a dock, like Bob was talking about. But I required the specific driver to be on my PC, Windows PC, in order to drive the dock to drive the monitors. And the dock has its own power supply. It's not 100 watts, but it was at least a 40-watt power supply. You know,
Okay,
Yeah, I wish I could remember what the driver was that's required.
the feature you're talking about is extended display. And
Mhm.
extended display needs a special driver. This is true of Linux. This is true of Windows.
Well, there is
Okay.
Windows
extended
does
display
have that driver.
in Windows 11. There's extended display.
Yeah, and that's what you need to be doing. And that should work with most docks. Not all docks are created equal. Not all will work with that driver.
Well, I can easily get two monitor, not a side monitor. And once in a while, if I were using the display that just duplicates, I could get all three. But it's not going to show two different things on these two outside monitors.
Sometimes that's a limitation of the dock. Sometimes it's a driver. Let's find out what the real story is. Windows driver.
So Windows 11 lets you have multiple monitors to a degree, up to 4, I believe.
You need to configure the display settings. And the monitors have to be connected and powered on. And then it will, Windows 11 has it built in. And there's physical connection stuff. Choose extended display, adjust settings, etc. It's just like any other extended display
Yeah,
I've ever
this is a
done.
power problem, I think.
Troubleshooting, driver issues. If Windows doesn't detect your monitors, ensure that your graphics card drivers are up to date. Physical connections, or you may have to restart the computer.
Done all that.
So it also may be requiring more power for the dock.
Yeah,
Can you show me an
the
example of a dock that you're using that works?
I do not do extended display, so I will have to drop out of the advice on that. But
Ron, can you tell
I
me
have seen
what
them
kind of dock?
advertised.
Can I send out a link to it
Yeah.
by email to you? I have your
Sure.
email address.
Sure.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
And the driver in question, yes, which is in Windows 11, by the way, you were right, is called Display Link. That's the driver required to go from a USB connection to an HDMI connection with either a dedicated cable that has the hardware built in, or a docking station where the display link is built into the docking station to do that. And the drivers needed on the PC side, so they talk to each other. That's display link, was it? I knew it wasn't display port, but display link. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
You got it.
Yeah, and I will send that off. Sanford, should I send that off to you as well to drop in any notes for the video or whatever?
It'll get, if you put it in the chat, it'll get saved in the chat.
I'm not going to see it until I get home.
Yeah, just send it off to.
I will. Okay, I'll send it to you and Bert. No problem.
Right.
So that's the fun I've been having.
Now,
and I
how
think
are
the
you going
problem
to-
is everything I look at to test something else is another $100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
how are you going to mount these?
That's another toy I have, which works, which is a mount to my laptop that holds two monitors around it. Which I could show you, but I don't know what you can see. It comes in a case. It's about $175. It clamps to the back of the laptop monitor.
Cool.
And it works in different sizes. You expand it to fit what you're doing.
Wow.
Each thing
Oh,
on
that's
the
awesome.
side is a monitor. And
How
your
heavy is
laptop
it?
in the middle, which is the monitor. So you got all three.
You've got 3 monitors there.
Yeah, and it works. Each monitor works.
Yeah.
It's just getting both of them at the same time that's tricky.
Yeah. Try the display link, and also it may be that the dock needs more power.
Yep.
And make sure your graphics drivers are all up to date.
Mhm.
So it's the kind of thing where it takes a little effort setting it up the first time. And there's different cables and things that come with it to make it work. But
Mhm.
I think it's a power thing to get the second monitor at the same time. And I can switch
I would
which
think.
one it is.
Yep.
What
And
you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take the cable and quickly go back and forth between both monitors so that you have both monitors working. You're supposed
Yeah.
to just keep switching the cable
Back
back
and
and forth.
forth,
real
back and
quick.
forth, back and forth.
well, I've done that, but not quite as fast as
Ah, okay.
And
um,
there are videos on how to do this.
so anyway, that's the insanity of the toys I've been playing with here. Um, along with this one, that's the 13 ports in
What
one.
brand?
What is this? This is LEM Lenmore or Len, I don't know. I just can't see it here. LEM CREL E.
Okay.
So it's got 13 ports, 2 HDMI's. It's got different USB ports. You see, it's got an adapter for mini micro card and card in it, USB. It's got a VGA adapter. It's got a sound port.
Okay.
So it's got lots of stuff on it, and it all connects to USB-C.
Okay.
I
But
have a similar dock from Lionway, LIONWEI, one of the Amazon brands. And what I'm going to see is whether or not I can show, if it will allow. Maybe I'll have to kill my background.
Oh, it's also got a Wi-Fi connector.
There we are.
And I got
okay.
mine from Walmart, which was much cheaper than
There's mine.
Amazon.
Those are USB
Right?
and SD and mini SD, micro SD, 2 HDMI, and I think the other ones are another USB and a USB-C, which I think is just power. And I've got on one of the USB ports, I've got an external Wi-Fi antenna for Wi-Fi 6. So that's what it is.
Let me see if I can read this.
But I've never tried to do simultaneous monitors with that one. I think it says it can.
We lose Bob.
There's some.
Just the video.
There's okay. I was trying to see where it said it was like 100-watt connector. but it doesn't plug in anywhere, so you would have to have something to adapt to this.
Oh, so it can use another power supply?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I
which-
would look into that, see what the specs are on that.
Well, and then 100-watt power supplies seem to be $100 also.
Yeah, just make sure the dock can handle it. And if you want to know what happened to my video, I just had to restart my virtual webcam.
Gotcha. Okay, shall we move on to a new subject? New question? Dennis, have you got something for the group? Dennis? Hello, Dennis. There he is.
No. I would like to ask just what you mean exactly by dock. I mean, I remember old IBM PCs. I had like a docking station. You took the PC and you slapped it into it and shoved it in, and it gave you all these, connectors on the back. Is that what we're talking about here when we say dock? Okay.
Except you're not slapping it on. It's just a USB cable that plugs into the device. But it's the same kind of thing. It's a box,
Okay.
or as Bert was showing us a device that has all these additional ports on it, but with one connection.
Okay.
The difference between a dock and an adapter is that an adapter is just one type of port that is duplicated or replicated, and a dock will be different kinds of ports. And almost all docks are either USB or USB-C, otherwise known sometimes as Thunderbolt.
Thank you, Intel.
Okay, new question, new direction?
Isn't that a boy band?
I think so.
They just go one direction.
I wasn't even thinking about that. Okay. Yeah, okay. We have any other subjects?
Well, I don't know if we ever discussed the USB ports exactly, because the old ones, some of them had white part. As you connected in, there was a white part, and then there's a yellow parts, there's green parts, and there's red parts in the newer USB connections. And that's where you're supposed to know what kind of capability it has.
Actually, that's not very reliable because the colors started getting used for different kinds of capabilities. But originally, USB was type 1. And they often had black or white plastic or no plastic at all. And that's very slow. USB 2 tended to be white, and it was a type A connector as well. There was at one time a B type connector, which was square instead of rectangular. And then they went up to USB 3, and that's where it got complicated because the standards people changed the nomenclature. It used to be USB 3.0, 3.1, but now there's USB 3.1 Gen 1, 3.1 Gen 2, and 3.2 Gen 1, and 3.2 Gen 2. There may be additional USB 4 standards now, and USB 5 coming up. So the ones that are blue,
straightforward.
yeah, the ones that are blue are often labeled SS or Super Speed. Those tend to be 3.1 or 3.1 Gen 2. And as for the actual speeds, I'll let somebody else tell you what they are.
Yeah. They're all 10 and under when they're the rectangular ones. It's the USB-C ones. Some of them are faster, like up to 40. I know they're working on 120 right now for USB-C. The problem with USB-C, it was originally originally came out as a standard. It's
Quote,
no
unquote.
longer standard. Yeah, it's no
They-
longer standard.
They threw
It's
it out the window.
5 volt, it's 19 volt, it's 45 volt, it's it allows Thunderbolt, it doesn't allow Thunderbolt. It's just gotten the USB standard. It's not really the cable's problem, it's the part you plug it into's problem. The cables are cables, they're pretty dumb. But the jacks you plug those cables, you plug the cables into, they're all different kinds of electronics behind them, and they're just not standard anymore. We were having all sorts of troubles trying to figure out why our laptops weren't charging, and we come to discover that the particular adapter that was being used on the cables shut off high voltage recharging because it didn't have a particular wire on it to allow it. It's just ridiculous. So you just have to be sure, just because the cable looks like it's USB-C doesn't mean it does anything more than look pretty, coming out of the port on your car to plug in your Apple products, which now require USB-C.
Yes, and there were at one time problems with USB-C cables themselves. Some of them were substandard and they caused issues, which could fry computers.
Because they were being used to charge, they were being used to high power devices, and schlocky product.
Now there are cables that are more capable of doing that safely.
Yep.
As I understand it, wasn't there two different or another upgrade kind of cable needed for the new Thunderbolt capabilities?
Not that I know of. I think the wiring is the same as USB-C.
So I don't know.
It's just that some of the connectors have all of the wires enabled. Some have some of the wires enabled. Some have very few enabled because they're for charging.
You never know which one has what until you try it out.
You do know if you buy from a reputable, well-known vendor.
But it's also time, because these things evolve.
Yep.
Over time, the older stuff might still be called the same or shown the same way.
Yeah, and there's one other thing you need to be cautious about with cables. They do age, they do bend and flex, and every time you coil them and uncoil them, you're risking having the wires wear out or even break internally. But anyway, as far as the types of USB, yeah, there's a lot, and they range from 5, I think it's Mbps, to 10 to 20. Then they got up to 40 with the 3.2 Gen 2. Thunderbolt 4 and 5 can double or even triple that.
Amazing.
But they're still not as they're not as fast as an Ethernet connection in terms of data throughput.
As a wired Ethernet connection.
Ethernet is capable of doing a lot more.
But it doesn't always do it.
It depends again on your port, your bus, and your wires.
I just, it's always a struggle to try to keep that thing going and rocking. But,
what are they up to now? Cat 7?
I'm sorry.
What are they up to now? Cat 7?
Yeah, I think so. Or Cat 8.
Cat 8 now.
I saw Cat 8 coiled up on a package on some cable that it said Cat 8. And I'm like, I didn't know they had such a thing. Okay.
And it was screaming at you, buy me, buy me.
It was screaming. But I was like, why do I need it? I barely hit my system could barely handle what I got. I'd have to rewire everything. But Terry Moy, you popped in a little late, but that's fine. We're glad you're here. Do you have any questions for the group? We're at the open topics subject here. We can't hear you, Terry.
What?
We can't hear you, Terry.
I don't know.
Oh, no, we could hear you. You just got to speak up.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I don't got anything with,
You
I
got
don't got
nothing-
anything to contribute, so
Well, I
sorry.
just was wondering if you had some questions for the group.
Uh,
Nope. Okay.
yeah, well, I guess I'm gonna probably have to buy a, forgot the term, but the one that they use in school, and the one they call it, starts with a G, I think, or whatever.
I don't know your question.
Well, no, I said I'm gonna have to buy the one that the laptops that they use in schools.
Oh, a Chromebook?
Yeah, a Chromebook. I think I'm gonna have to buy a Chromebook, yes.
Oh, why would that be?
Because I think all you use it for is the internet, right? A Chromebook, just to get on the internet? I believe so.
Anyone want to fill in the blanks on Chromebooks? I have no experience with a Chromebook.
Be careful about buying Chromebooks. Google is about to abandon Chrome OS. And
Really?
they're going to merge it into Android.
Okay,
I
but
don't have details about when, but Android phones are now getting a desktop experience mode, and it's coming into the high-end phones now. It'll work its way down. And I think it's Android 16 upward that has that. And the idea is your phone is going to take the place of what used to be a Chromebook.
Okay, but that's not helping Terry.
But anyway, for Chromebooks, if you want to have one while the operating system still exists, they are simpler to use. They're easy to get on the internet. The applications are not full-scale desktop applications, but they
Right.
do have a suite of sheets, docs, so various things that you can do. It's not like Microsoft Office. I don't know. There may be a Microsoft 365 that works on Chromebook. But
Bert says no.
no.
Hey, Terry, why do you think you need to get a Chromebook?
Well, for the real estate office, I want to put just so I can get an internet connection, yeah.
Oh, to like a kiosk or what?
Yeah, I've got I didn't need something that I could hook into the internet with. So I can get on, so I can get on, like MLS and stuff
So
like
you
that.
can get on
Well, the clients or whoever.
or the clients?
Whoever, yeah, who's ever in the
Well, most
office.
of your clients should be coming in with a phone. They should be able to do it on their phone, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, but anyway. Well, I just thought I would, get a Chromebook. So
Yeah, they're pretty.
Just
Anyone
mention
know
that.
about brands on Chromebooks? Is there anything to note?
Well, if it's going to go to Android, then I don't want one of the Chromebook people just tough luck, or I guess, or whatever.
Well, but if it's I meant, should he buy a Samsung or should he buy, is there a brand name? Asus makes Chromebooks? I don't know. Does anyone have a recommendation?
Asus makes pretty decent middle-of-the-road Chromebooks.
Okay.
There are cheaper ones available.
Bob, which brand did you say?
Asus, ASUS.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, gotcha.
If you want a more expensive and more capable Chromebook, then you would be going with a Samsung.
Okay. Thank you for the advice.
But quite frankly, I think for an office situation, just a simple Windows laptop would be just as good a choice. And as long as it's capable of Windows 11, it will last for longer. There's more certainty about its future.
Maybe he's concerned over it walking out the door, and so he wants a low-cost device that won't walk out the door.
Oh, then you're looking at low-end Chromebooks.
Right. That I just throw that out there. We don't know what the application is, but sometimes price does matter.
And
Yeah.
of course, if you need to do like a spreadsheet, then that probably may not be the place.
No, just the internet connection. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you could do, what is it, LibreOffice or some type of stuff online with Chromebooks. You could do spreadsheets with those.
Chromebooks do WPS Office,
Yeah, there you go.
which in some ways is closer to Microsoft 365 than
Mhm.
LibreOffice.
Well, thank you for the advice.
See, you did have a question. And he didn't think he did. Okay, is there any last questions for the group? If not, I'd like to conclude tonight's meeting. I'll stop the recording.